This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
You know how we're mildly disappointed that we don't think our wives listen to our podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, we say we're not, and
Right.
but deep down it kind of hurts a little bit.
It does hurt a little bit, but it's also kind of nice to just be able to say whatever we want.
Yeah, well, I think we got to start rethinking that strategy and that sensibility.
Why is that?
Well, last week I told the story about giving Lila the glow stick, thinking it was a candy, and she bit it off, and all the toxic waste
sludge,
came out. Well,
And you threw out her dress?
yes, I threw out her
Yeah, that was my favorite part of that story.
So, and you got the same text, I believe, that I did.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Michelle, saying that she was unaware of that little event that happened in 2004. So we might need to kind of keep in mind that there are actually other people listening to this podcast.
We cannot be bridled. We are stallions.
We could be bridal, believe me.
No. In fact, I've got a story today I'm going to tell. And people just need to buckle up.
Is Bridget listening?
No.
Okay.
Well, it's safer for me, I guess.
Right.
Because it is time right now for Minutia Men.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast,
An Opie production on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
This is Minutia Men with Rick and Dave.
I swear she is more pissed that I threw away the dress
Yeah.
that I gave her,
I just think that's funny. Imagine being her and tuning in and like, wait, what? What happened?
Hey, we got a hell of a show again.
We do.
Good. We are just, since we took that month off, we
Yeah.
are firing on all cylinders. When are you going on another vacation?
I don't have anything scheduled for like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
we got
buckle
like
up, everybody.
8 or 10 in a row?
I think so.
All right. This comes out of Canada, which, by the way, our Minutia Men celebrity interview,
Yeah.
like 16% of our audience is from Canada.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Love the Canadians.
Yeah.
It's a suburb of Illinois, basically. Man gets pinched for drug trafficking after handing out business cards with free samples of cocaine.
Okay, that qualifies for this, I think.
When you're on the job and you're not doing it right. Jenkins!
Time now for Dave to share stories of employee screw-ups.
Jenkins! It could only be Jenkins with Rick and Dave. Jenkins!
Officers in Calgary first became aware of this well-thought-out promotional campaign while patrolling a casino on Christmas Eve. Police say that an unidentified man was handing out business cards with small little baggies of cocaine.
Well, that's just good marketing.
I'm telling you, it's point of purchase. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great marketing. Investigators began an investigation in January. Last weekend, officers searched a vehicle, and again, name redacted, and recovered almost 60 grams of cocaine, individually portioned in more than 50 baggies, a digital scale, cash, and business cards. Okay. A 30-year-old man is charged with two
What does it say on the business card?
Well, I will tell you in a
All right,
second, because
okay.
I've got a business card critique.
Okay.
Because
Oh,
I've got a copy of the business card, and quite frankly, he made some mistakes
Okay.
in it.
Can't wait to hear.
Well, here, why don't we just go? Here's the photo. Here's a photo of the business card. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the font choice. Okay. This looks like it's Times New Roman. I would suggest a sans serif type to build credibility.
Times New Roman. That's hack.
It is. It's tell me something I don't know.
Right.
Right. Also, when you're looking at these baggies, and there's a picture of the baggies here.
Yeah.
There's no logo on these baggies. Right?
This guy.
Can't he?
He's trying, but he's just not a professional.
He did not take Professor Stern's small business marketing class. I tell you
he
what.
did not.
Another thing is he was giving out a gram of cocaine per business card. Okay.
He was just giving it out?
Well, it was part of his, it was a free sample, basically. It says what here? It says here, yes, investigators say he was giving up to a gram of cocaine per. This guy is not keeping customer acquisition costs in mind, right?
Yeah.
100. Do you know how much a gram? Do you have any idea how much?
I don't
It's
know.
like $150.
Is it for a gram? Wow.
Yeah. So when you start,
I'm more of a heroin guy myself.
are you?
Yeah.
Heroin has become like a chic microdose. You know how you hear about microdosing and
Yeah.
heroin is becoming a real.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you really have your finger on the pulse of the youth.
I hope this man is keeping track of all these expenses for tax purposes, right? Because these are business expenses. But my favorite part of this, or actually I should say my least favorite part, is he has a tagline. I know it's really hard to read here. He's got a tagline on his business cards. Guess what his tagline is?
Well, I can't see it.
You're Coke Man.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, that's too vague.
on.
He's not positioning himself, in the industry at all. This is not the stupidest cocaine dealer, though, that I found.
Oh, there's more.
I've got a couple that happened throughout the years. I'd like to share them to you. In 1989, Hector Martinez was arrested in a Detroit suburb of Huntington Woods. You know Huntington Woods, and then right near where your brother lives,
Yeah,
right?
very close.
After the police, and the reason why they caught him is outside of Hector's house, there was a menu board. I am not kidding. There was a menu board outside of his house with prices and special offers.
Well, again, he's marketing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we should be giving them credit. But again, another favorite in 2014, Lorden Samuels was pulled over by cops after they noticed that his license plate read "Got Meth" on his new red Porsche 911.
It's like Breaking Bad.
Yeah. So guys, if you're selling drugs, talk to Professor Stern first.
Where are you teaching these classes these days?
Yeah, I'm not.
Just various different universities around the.
We're gonna put a little pin in that.
There could be a lot of David Sterns out there.
Yeah.
It could be anybody. It's probably not the same guy who's doing this wacky podcast. All right, I have a story for you. This is a story that kind of ties into your glow stick story.
Mm-hmm.
Some would call it a bad parenting story, but I think we have decided that we
don't judge. There's no
don't
bad
judge.
parents.
Australian police came to the aid of a 3-year-old boy after he became trapped inside a claw machine at a suburban shopping mall. Video of the unusual rescue Saturday was shared on social media by Queensland police, and I think I had a Queensland police story last week too. It showed the toddler sitting inside the glass-walled box filled with plush toys, blissfully unaware of his predicament. This is my favorite part. The boy's father, Timothy Harper, said his son had disappeared into the claw machine's prize dispenser and did it in a split second. I had no chance to react to it. Unbelievably how fast he climbed up there, he told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. The video shows the officers and the boy's parents encouraging him into a safe corner at the back of the machine to cover his eyes while the police shattered the glass panel to free him. Again, as we like to say, no judgment here.
No.
And I think it's time to do this.
Time now for Rick and Dave to both share a story or two about things going on in their lives.
Involving the kids, the wives, or both.
And now, Rick and Dave.
So it's time for my story, all right? You told a story last week. I'm going to tell you my story. This is a story that goes back quite a few years. My youngest son, Sean, was about the age of this boy.
Okay.
3.
Okay.
He was 3. And at that age, Sean learned to do something that is terrifying to parents. He learned how to unbuckle himself from the car seat.
Yeah.
We had a brand new minivan at the time. Sean was buckled behind me. We're driving somewhere in the neighborhood when I was shocked to see little Sean suddenly leaning into the front seat with a shit-eating grin on his face. And he said, "Hi, Dad."
Yeah.
Now, I was driving.
Yeah.
All right. I immediately thought to myself, if I hit the brakes
He's
too
going
fast,
to go
flying.
through in the windshield. Right.
So I slowly pulled over to the side. And in the 3 seconds that it took me to open my door and to open his door so that I could buckle him back up, he jumped into the front seat, went in my change drawer, took a dime out of my change drawer, stuck it into the CD machine, and broke the CD player. The CD player, in order to fix that CD player,
it's probably like $700 or something.
$1,200, because they would have had to take the entire dashboard off, right? So
that was the end of the CD player.
Well, and this is a brand new car, and we had that car for another 17 years, and we never got the CD player fixed. We just drove around with a car and no CD player. But again, just like this guy, he did it in a split second. I totally believe that this kid somehow figured out a way to get into the claw box.
Yeah, I the thing that, and I had twins, obviously, and so Lila. So I think we must have had 3 kids in car seats at the same time.
Yeah, you did.
Right, and getting those little bastards in those car seats with and they made a game of it, right? You can't get it.
And especially with our technical abilities, getting somebody strapped in each time was hard for me. And I never got over it.
Hey, we got a great review.
We did.
This is from Beyond the Box Set via Apple Podcasts in Great Britain.
Oh,
which were huge there too.
Yeah.
Within a few minutes of listening to Rick and Dave. Should I do it in an English accent? No.
Don't.
I don't like how last week you didn't like my David Bowie impersonation.
Well, you had one line.
All right.
Yeah. Have you been working on it?
A little bit, but I'm not ready to flop it out.
All right.
Within a few minutes of listening to Rick and Dave of the Minutia Men, it's clear that broadcasting is more than a hobby. It's in their bones.
Oh.
Speaking energetically and fluently. Well, he's from Great Britain, so yes, we do speak English fluently.
Yes.
On a range of subjects for a sustained period is a lot harder than it looks, but there's an ease and confidence in this show that really separates it from the pack.
Wow.
Hold on. Whether they're rambling about the latest bizarre headlines from around the world.
I don't like the word rambling.
Or delivering deliciously gossipy anecdotes from their radio days. These Minutia Men are a joy to listen to.
Wow, that's
more content than we do in a show, basically.
That's the best review we've ever
had.
Okay. Well, it's time for another feature in the show as I seamlessly go to this next segment.
Time now for Studio Walls.
And the words of the prophets were written on the studio walls. Rick and Dave.
So this is the portion of our show where we find delicious gossip to share with our listeners, and we go through our vast files of our archives. And actually, this week, Dave, in 1998, Seinfeld, which was one of our favorite shows, aired the episode about George's girlfriend refusing to break up with him.
Okay.
All right, so that was 26 years ago this week. And we luckily had the chance to talk to the girl who played the actress who played that role. Her name is Alex Kapp. And if you remember that interview, it was really fascinating because she also was
She was the woman. She was the killer, or what? Wasn't
the preppy killer's girlfriend?
Right.
Do you remember that whole story?
Yeah.
So we get into that. If you want to go on to it, it's episode number 132 of Minutia Men Celebrity Interview. But today, I want to play a portion where she tells us about what it was like being on Seinfeld and how she got the role and everything.
And we also had we had Kramer's, the nun that Kramer fell in love with. We had her on as well.
Yes.
So
we've covered it all. Here's Alex telling us about that special incident in her career.
Oh, it was kind of unbelievable, actually. I mean, it was the last season, so it was a huge hit at that point. I mean, it was as big as it ever got. And even the way I got the job was thrilling. It was just it was a game changer for me. And it actually kind of started off a whole bunch of all the other acting jobs because, once you do a Seinfeld, that's kind of the, the aspirational goal.
So what is the story of how you got the job?
Well, funny you should ask. So it was very rare, but it was a Saturday morning audition, which never happens ever, but it was Seinfeld. So of course you go. But I, at the time being in my 20s, didn't think through going out the night before and having quite a few cocktails. So I'm not really sure what I was thinking, but clearly I wasn't thinking much. And so I was a little unwell on Saturday morning. I mean, just the idea that I would ever do that today is so stupid and irresponsible. In any case, that's what I was.
I did that with the ACT, and that's why I ended up at the University of Illinois. So,
yes. Same thing. See, that's what happens. And I like that you only took it once. So
exactly.
Why bother trying again?
Yeah, right. Good enough is good enough, Alex.
It's fine. It's fine. So anyway, so Saturday morning audition, I just remember I was wearing a silk shirt, which was a really bad choice if you're hungover. Anyway, so And there was a sort of a hallway with all these women, probably 20 women. And I realized at the time that they were auditioning 2 parts. So they were 2 guest stars on that episode, but I didn't quite know that. And I was just sort of trying to keep myself together. And so everybody went in one by one. We all sat there. And normally you go in for an audition, you sit there, you go in, you read, you leave. Once in a blue moon, they'll have you wait and they'll kind of sort of say whatever. Anyway, in this case, we all had to wait. So it was my turn. I got up to walk in the room. And also, by the way, let me back up. There were a lot of famous people there. So by the time I walked in, I was like, there is no way in God's green earth I'm getting this job, because it was like famous actresses. And I thought, in the last season, there's no way they're going to hire me, but whatever. I'll throw one away. And
who are some of the names? Throw some names out there.
Oh gosh, I will not.
People that you beat out for this role.
Yeah.
Were they hungover too?
Yes, they were all hungover, really hungover. No, one of the names I will say was Ileana Douglas, because I'll say that because she's actually in the episode, and I'll explain that in a minute too.
Okay.
So, but when I saw her, I was like, she was a big independent film star at the time, and I thought, well, there's just not. Yeah, she's gonna get it. I'm not gonna get it. So I walk in, and lo and behold, it's Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld in the room. And I'm going to be reading with Jerry Seinfeld, which was like, holy shit, I can't believe I can't believe I'm hungover. What's wrong with me? So, and we started the scene, and he was just reading George's part. He was reading George, and I was reading Maura. And it was the very first time I said no. I think, he just says, I'm breaking up with you. And I just say no. And I caught Jerry looking at Larry, and they exchanged a look. And I can't describe it, but I kind of was like, oh my God, I think I just booked this job.
Wow.
It was just a weird little moment. But they looked at each other and kind of smirked. And I thought, shit, I think I just got this job off one word. So I finished the scene. They were laughing. I was laughing. I'm absolutely certain I told them I was hungover because I have a huge big mouth. And so I walked out and I sat down and I was waiting, and then everybody else went in, including Ileana Douglas. And so then Mark Hirschfeld, the casting director, who's a wonderful man, he came out and he said, Ileana, and before he even finished saying her name, I already grabbed my bag and was out the door. And he was like, Alex, wait, where are you going? I was like, what do you mean? You just said Ileana. It goes, oh my God, so awkward. Ileana, you come with me. Alex, you got the job. Ileana, you got the other part. And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Oh my God. And so at that point, I felt bad, because then she was like, shit, I got the smaller part. And I couldn't believe it. And that was it. And we literally walked out. All the other actresses left, dejected. It's awful to be that actress. I've been it a million times. Yeah. And then we just turned around and walked straight to the table read, 2 doors down. We were at CBS Radford, and that was it. We started at Saturday morning table read. So that was it. Walked right on to the job. And it was like one of the best weeks of my life. It was just fabulous. Wow. Every single bit of it.
But
fabulous,
when you said that the word no is the thing that clicked, if people haven't seen that episode,
it's great.
That was the whole point. He tried to break up with you. George tried to break up with you, and you just said no.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like the key.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
It was the key word in the whole episode. So you nailed that. So, right?
Yeah. So it was pretty thrilling. And it went really well too. To this day, people remember that because it is just so absurd that he's like, I'm breaking up with you. No, you're not. Oh, okay. And he just gives in so easily. He's just quit. He's like, okay. Yeah. All right.
So you read with Jerry. Wouldn't you think Jason Alexander would read? Isn't that kind of weird that Jerry would read George's part? Why wouldn't George?
I mean, no. It is a little weird. I was surprised, I will say. But, they were so the showrunners that it normally you'd read with the casting director, or you'd read with,
right.
You might do a chemistry read with the actual person, but, I think they just wanted, their hands were in every bit of it because they write it and it's their show. So I think they just, it was surprising, but it wasn't that surprising, if that makes sense.
I have just one more question about this. That is, what kind of cocktails were you drinking the night before? Just out of curiosity.
Probably I was in my 20s, so probably something like Cosmos. I mean, it was the 90s, so some horrible thing with a lot of sugar in it is what I'm guessing.
And that was in New York, right?
No,
it was here.
L.A.
It was here. I'm in L.A. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was L.A. Yep.
See, Dave, the show was set in New York, but
Can they
really,
do that? Can you actually set a show and not part of the...
You can make it look like another city.
Whoa!
Can they do that?
I think we just cracked the code there.
That's incredible.
there it is.
She was a delightful character.
You can tell that she's not exactly a type B personality.
No. She was, and she told, and part of, like you said, part of this interview that we did, this was like an ancillary part of the interview because we talked about her being the girlfriend of the preppy.
Yeah, that was the main reason we had her on. Yeah,
and, which is just fascinating how her life was completely,
her name is Alex Kapp, and the episode, if you want to check it out, it's episode 132 of Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
Rick, can you flop out your French accent? I told that's all you could do, right?
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, this comes out of doesn't come out of France. It actually comes out of Great Britain. Man who spent years building Eiffel Tower replica with 700,000 matchsticks may not be denied world record for using wrong matches. Should I say that again? Because I kind of butchered that about 9 times.
Why don't you?
Man who spent years building Eiffel Tower that's hard to say.
I'm telling you, the guy who wrote that review about how smooth you are, right now he's revoking that.
Anyways, some dude uses 700,000 matchsticks and he builds an Eiffel Tower replica.
Sure.
Okay. His name is Richard Plowd. And he used, like I said, 706,900 matchsticks to make a 23.5-foot model of the Eiffel Tower. Okay.
God, this is so
and
brutal.
he did it, and he did it 2 feet longer or higher than the Guinness Book of World Record because he wanted to.
He was the whole reason he was
exactly
doing it.
Right.
And it took him years.
It took him 12 years.
Wow.
12 years to do it. And well over 10,000 hours. Well, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because he altered the matchsticks. In order to be a Guinness Book of World Record, you have to use real matchsticks.
Standard.
Yeah. And so he actually made a deal with a matchstick. They don't mention what matchstick manufacturer it is, to remove all the heads of the matches.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
No, absolutely. So
Cheater.
He did this whole thing. He spent over 10,000 hours, and Guinness Book of World Records ends up saying, it's not gonna. However, I just checked this morning. They are now in negotiations.
Are they?
Yes.
I mean, it was probably a pity thing. Like, how many years did you do that? 12 years?
Well, this reminds me of somebody I know, and actually I think you know him too. Spent like 14,000 hours on chronicling the biography of every Cub that ever played.
Yeah.
And
I think I've heard about that guy.
Think about if that book was never published.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've been working on that book for the new updated edition.
Yeah.
And there are
42 new ones.
No, 78
new Cubs.
78 new entries that I have to write
because of 2023.
Yeah.
And then also people die from the previous 2000s.
Yeah, so I mean I just did not think this through when I first wrote that book.
How many, so every entry, do you have their death date on all the entries?
Yes.
So you have to go through and make sure that of these two, nobody died in the last year.
Right. I think 16 Cubs died last year. So addition to all the other stuff. But that's, you just took the scab off on that one. I've been working on it the last couple of weeks here.
Well, pitchers and catchers are reporting next week. So
I know.
Chop, chop, buddy.
I know.
Chop, chop.
All right, I have a story for you. You know the John Williams show on WGN?
Yeah.
He's a fairly popular disc jockey, I guess, talk show host, WGN Radio. They do a bit called Speed Jokes.
Okay.
People call up, they tell their one-liner jokes. I think he does it every week. And they did a competition at the end of the year to find out which one was the funniest one-liner joke of the year. And I have it for you. I even have him saying it. Here we go. It's one-liner, 5 seconds. Here we go.
What did the elephant say to the naked man? Cute, but can it pick up peanuts?
That's it.
What was it?
What did the elephant say to the naked man? Cute, but can it pick up peanuts?
I gotcha.
Get
okay.
it?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So I went down, you talk about rabbit holes. I went down one-liner joke rabbit hole to find jokes.
When you should have been working on the Every Cub Ever.
Yes, but I was working on this show, if that counts, which I think it should. And I found lots of one-liners. You know, it's pretty hard to be funny in one-liner jokes. But the thing that I found that interested me the most is I found an Indian joke site. This is a
You
site,
had me at Indian joke site.
and now we're talking about India,
Not
the
Native
country.
American, right.
Yes, there are 5 jokes on this line here, and I want you to tell me what you think of these. All right, these are Indian jokes. The early bird might get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese.
Okay.
Okay, I get it, because the first one gets.
Yeah.
Do I have to explain these
No,
jokes? I don't think
no.
so. He who smiles in a crisis has found someone to blame.
Okay. These are like fortune cookie.
They are kind of fortune cookie. How is it one careless match can start a forest fire, but it takes a whole box to start a campfire?
Wow. And 706,000 matchsticks to make the Eiffel Tower. Yeah.
I saw a woman wearing a sweatshirt with guess on it, so I said, implants?
Okay. Not bad. That one's okay.
And here's the last one. Never hit a man with glasses. Hit him with a cricket bat.
Okay. There's the Indian.
Yeah,
right there.
see? Yeah. Now you know that's
So-
authentically Indian.
Do you know cricket? Do you know the rules of cricket?
I
at all?
don't know.
So I teach at a place where there's a lot of students are immigrants.
What's the name of this? Place?
Chicago. And they were explaining to me cricket. These matches last
Days.
like weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not something I'm going to pick up now in my
No,
60s.
but DraftKings has a little section that you can bet on cricket.
There's literally nothing you can't bet on.
You cannot bet on the presidential election if you live in America.
Really?
Right. Which is going to tie into a tease of our next guest
wait.
coming up.
Yes, but we have another feature.
No, I know.
before that.
I'm teasing the tease.
Okay, here we go.
A random name pulled out of Rick's bowl of brushes with celebrities.
Mixture, collection, selection, assemblage, medley, assortment, variety.
Time now for Celebrity Potpourri.
With Rick and Dave.
Now you're going to love this one, Dave, because this one is sent to you.
Okay.
All right, to my email for some reason. It's from Rachel, and it says, "I'm a regular listener to the pod."
Okay.
We never call it the pod.
No.
Regular listener to the pod.
Rachel must be young and hip.
Could be. No, actually, I think she's even older than us. And I particularly liked the Avery Schreiber story a few months back. Dave's reaction was so cute. I have a similar Jewish celebrity story.
Okay.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Cleveland Heights.
Sure.
When I was 16, a bunch of us made a pilgrimage to Israel to visit a kibbutz. I didn't know one of the girls on the trip named Debbie, but she was very nice. We had a long talk over a cucumber and tomato salad one day.
I love the minutia of this.
Yes.
This is great.
Fast forward 10 years. My husband and I went to the movies, and there she was on the screen. It was Debbie. The movie was An Officer and a Gentleman.
Deborah Winger.
Debbie is now known as Deborah Winger.
Wow.
Dave, she's a nice Jewish girl.
Oh, we haven't seen a Deborah Winger. Is she? She's still
I don't
alive?
know. Is she still alive?
I would have.
I think she is, yeah. She's kind of fallen off the...
We got to. You know what? We got to get her on the show.
yeah, let's talk to her about the kibbutz.
Thank you, Rachel. That
Yes, thank you very much. Now, we have another show that is called Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
Right. And we had the pleasure of interviewing Ken Bone. Do you remember who Ken Bone is?
Of course, Ken Bone.
Ken Bone, for those of you who don't, during the 2016 election, he was in the front row of the debate. He asked that question about energy consumption and became a internet sensation.
And it was something to do with the fact that he had a red sweater
Big
on,
red
right?
sweater, right. And he just looked like an everyday guy.
Right.
He was like,
Just
it was
like a
every
schlump.
it was, yeah, well,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that, but
you just did.
You're right.
But
Well,
we
yeah.
appreciated the time that Ken Bone hung with us.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting interview about his like crazy blitzkrieg of
Yes,
fame.
because he was everywhere during that
for like
election. Yeah.
2 months afterwards.
Right.
And then when it was over, he was
He Deborah Wingered.
he did Deborah Winger. Yes.
So yes, check that out. This Minutia Men celebrity interview. We have people to thank, Dave. We need to thank our executive producer Tony Lasano with Opie Shows. We couldn't do it without him. We also need to thank Ed Silla with the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. He distributes the show.
Let's thank Rachel.
Let's thank Rachel.
Avery Schreiber.
Yes. And Ken Bone. Yes. Be sure to check that out, too. And we'll be back again now, since I'm not taking any vacations. We'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of
Minutia Men.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at radiomisfits.com. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?
That's all you could do, right?
That's it. That's all I got.